That's good. I'm Dave Milodonis. I'm the founder of the National Veterans History Archival Institute, and we're collecting these interviews as part of our collecting partnership with the Library of Congress. And the interviews are also used for education in the schools and the universities across the country. So we record the interviews and everything. There is some biographical data I want to write down for you. Your first name is Jack or John?
Jack.
Jack. Okay. Do you have a middle name, sir?
It's Alexander. I just put A.
The Library of Congress wants the full name.
Hack Alexander Pittman.
Pittman?
Right.
Man?
Correct.
And Jack, what's your current address?
P.O. Box 195, Halifax.
What's your name?
27839. 27839.
Okay. And your current phone number?
583 2826.
And that's a 252?
252.
Area code? And Jack, where were you born? Where were you born?
I was born in Halifax County.
Okay. And what's your birth date?
June 2, 1990. Oh, man.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
What branch of the service did you go into?
Infantry.
U.S. Army. Were you enlisted or drafted or commissioned?
Drafted.
Okay. Do you remember the date you were drafted?
It was in March of 41.
Okay. And do you remember when you were discharged?
It was in 45, but I don't remember the months.
Late 45?
45.
Like November or December, maybe?
I'm thinking about it, November.
That's a beautiful model.
Okay. And what was your highest rank?
Texas.
Okay. And what unit and division did you serve with?
I served with the 120th Infantry, M Company, 30th Division.
30th. Now, at that time, was the 30th Division part of the North Carolina National Guard?
It was part of the National Guard, yes, sir.
Okay. World War II,
World War II.
and that would have probably been in Europe. Whereabouts in Europe were you?
Well, I was from the invasion of Normandy, and I'm a three-time Purple Heart veteran. I was wounded just outside of St. Louis
Okay.
the first time, and I was wounded the second time up in the Battle of the Bulge in Belgium.
Okay.
And the third time I got shot up right good by a German tank, and that was in Germany. I have two Purple Heart. I have a Purple Heart Spiritually Plus.
Any other awards? Bronze Star, Silver Star,
Bronze Star.
Bronze Star?
The seaman over there in, I think it was the 1st or 2nd Division, they did.
And as an infantryman, were you like a squad leader at the time, or?
Excuse me, platoon sergeant, really.
Okay.
50th anniversary.
I want to take you back a little bit in history. All right, you got drafted into the Army before World War II and before Pearl Harbor. All right, so did you volunteer for the draft, or you were just waiting to be drafted, or?
I was drafted,
Okay,
and I was drafted for 1 year of military training.
okay.
They said you'd get 1 year of military training.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked about a month of serving my year in the Japanese Pearl Harbor.
What were you, do you remember where you were when the Japs bombed Pearl Harbor, when the Japanese bombed them?
I was at Fort Jackson, Stanton.
South Carolina. What were you doing?
It was, I believe it was a Sunday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
It was 2 or 3 buddies and myself had just come from uptown Columbia, South Carolina.
Uh-huh.
And when I walked in the street, everything was all stirred up when we came back. And I said, what's going on here? And they said the Japs had just bombed Pearl Harbor. I said, well, where's Pearl Harbor? I didn't know where Pearl Harbor was.
Right. And then you found out. And what happened immediately following Pearl Harbor? What happened to you? And where did you go?
Well, see, I was 1 year's military training.
Mm-hmm.
This was on Sunday. They told me Monday, forget it. But no,
You were in for the duration.
right.
Okay.
So I started trying to be a better soldier.
Oh, you did. It was then you decided.
Yeah.
Up until that time, you were just biding your time to get out.
Good night. That's right.
Okay. Where did you go after Fort Jackson then?
Fort Jackson, we went to Camp Blanding, Florida.
And what were you doing there?
Well, it just, normal army training, combat training.
Okay. And were you with the 30th Division at that time?
Yes,
So you were training as a unit.
all right.
Okay.
The 120th Infantry. It was the 117th, 119th, and 120th Infantry.
All right.
And I was in the 120th M Company. And we left Fort Jackson, went to Camp Blanding, Florida,
Mm-hmm.
trained there a while, and then went to Camp Atterbury, Indiana.
Okay.
And that's the first time I got to stay in a real barrack. I lived in
You were in a tent the rest of the time.
for the,
Yeah.
And from Camp Atterbury, we were shipped over to England.
Do you remember what year that was? Like maybe 43 or early 44?
I believe it was early 44, late
Okay.
43 or 44.
Okay.
And we went to England, and we were in England and trained right much, had right much training there,
Mm-hmm.
and to the invasion. Now, I wasn't in the initial troop that,
Okay. So you weren't in the first waves on D-Day itself.
I was
Okay.
late that day.
All right.
That,
So it was after the beachhead was secured.
absolute
Did you land at Omaha or at Utah?
Omaha.
All right. So you landed at Omaha late and then moved inland with your unit.
Yes, sir.
What was your objective? Do you remember?
Our first real objective was St. Lo.
Mm-hmm.
And we were right tough nut, capture St. Lo.
Mm-hmm.
That was our first objective, as I remember.
Now, this is your first taste of combat. How did you handle it?
Well, we would cross the channel on LCI, landing craft infantry. And my buddy myself was down on our knees just looking over the rail there. I asked the good Lord to give me the strength to do what I had been trained to do, to lead my men as I had been trained. And I asked the dear Lord, don't let me freeze in field.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he did.
When you got to St. Lo, you were wounded for the first time. Do you recall the circumstances around that?
I was wounded, it was by artillery,
Okay.
and they evacuated me and put me on a hospital ship and carried me back to England.
Oh, okay. All
And
right.
I stayed in the hospital in England until they got me patched up. And they sent me back to France.
To your same unit?
No, they put me in a replacement pool.
Okay.
And one day, I wanted to go to my same unit. So I asked the commanding officer of the replacement pool, I said, will I go back to my same unit? He said, you'll go back to the unit that needs replacements.
Right.
And I was laying out there on a hedgerow. Of course, normally it was hedgerow. And I looked up there and I saw a 10-wheeler GMC truck, 10-wheeler up there from the 120th Infantry. So I took my little pack and I told the driver, I said, where are you going? He said, to the headquarters, 120th. I said, I'm going to be in the back of this truck when you leave. And the words he said,
So you assigned yourself back to them.
and he said, I don't know what's back there. So when I stopped, when he got back to regimental headquarters, 120th, I reported to my commanding officer.
Uh-huh.
And I told him, I said, sir, I'm AWOL from the replacement pool.
Okay.
And he said, what do you mean they do? I said, I left. I saw the other. I wanted to go back to the 120th. And he said, he was full color. He said, leave it to me. He said, what company are you in? I told him. He said, I have a driver to take you towards the front for as he can go.
I'll be
So I
darned.
went right back to the same company, same platoon.
Now, when you arrived back in the same platoon, they knew who you were.
Oh,
Were
yeah.
they surprised to see you coming back?
Yeah. One or two of them hollered out and said, here comes Pittman, here comes Pittman. And
Oh, my.
so I stayed with them on from then to in the Battle of the Bulls, and I was back on you for a while.
Well, let's move back a little bit before you get there. St. Lo, you received your wound. You were sent back to England to recover. You came back. Do you remember about what time of year it was when you came back? Was it August, maybe, or July?
It was in the summer.
Okay. Was the 30th still stuck in the hedgerows? They had not broken out yet.
No.
Okay. So you went back into the hedgerows.
Right.
All right. And you had literally Germans on the other side.
That's right.
That had to have been pretty scary.
It was.
Okay. How did you break out? How did you finally get moving out of the hedgerows? Do you remember?
You know, a hedgerow was just like a checkerboard.
Mm-hmm.
It was dairy covered. And each square, or acre to square, had a mound.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there was cows standing there.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd have to cross this little opening, maybe 2 or 3 acres, from one hedgerow to the next.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it was a mound up there for a fence, really. The Germans had drilled holes through that mound where they could set a machine gun and fire through that hole in the
opening.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you took one hedgerow at a time. And I've even witnessed that Germans in the hedgerow country that from the next one they'd wave a white flag, surrender, you know.
Mm-hmm.
and they would start across that, you'd motion for them to come on. And it'd be 2 or 3 or 4 men in front with white flag.
Mm-hmm.
And just as you got there, if you were exposed, those men fell flat and be about 3 behind, walking behind them.
So it was a trick.
Yeah, open up with grease gun.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a trick. But it didn't take you long to learn that trick.
What weapon did you carry when you were over there?
I carried an M1 rifle,
Okay.
30 caliber.
Did you carry any other weapons besides the M1?
Carried a 40.
45? Okay. The unit finally gets out of the hedgerows and you get into open country. Now you're moving through France.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you get to go into Paris?
No, I could. Paris was on our right. The 29th Division went into Paris. The 29th went into Paris.
You went around.
We went to the left side of Paris.
How come they wouldn't let you go in Paris?
Well, because the 29th Division and the 30th Division was to our left. So the 29th, 30th.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side, I believe, was the first division or the second division, I can't remember. So we didn't, just the edge of Paris, not in Paris.
Okay. When you were there, or as you were moving through, and this is later, early fall of 44, did you get to stop and then take some liberty, some time off to go into Paris at all? So the 30th kept moving.
Yeah. Now, later on, when we were way up, I guess maybe in Belgium,
Mm-hmm.
they would let 2 men go back to Paris for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
And like today, tomorrow was my time to go with another buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wounded, so I never got to go.
So the 30th is moving pretty fast now. You broke out of the hedgerows, and you're moving pretty fast. You're in Belgium. It's December 1944. And your lines are spread pretty thin too.
Right.
And the German offensive starts. Do you remember what you were doing when that happened?
Now, we had moved up, my outfit had moved up in the edge of Germany
Right.
when the Battle of the Bulge.
Mm-hmm.
They moved us by truck at night, 90 miles, back down into Belgium in the Battle of the Bulge.
Right. And where did they plump you?
And that was worse than landing in Normandy,
Okay.
because the temperature at night sometimes dropped down to 0 or a couple to 0.
Did you have winter clothing?
Same clothing I had to start with.
So you weren't really outfitted for a hard winter, were you? Leather boots?
Leather boots. And the platoon leader he was a First Lieutenant Roy Snow, and I was platoon sergeant.
Mm-hmm.
We always was in a hole together, foxhole together at least. Or whenever we went foxhole, we foxhole together. And in the Battle of the Bulge, 50% of the men would try to sleep and 50% would be awake.
Mm-hmm.
Guard, security, you know. So,
Now, at the beginning of the Battle of Bulge, when they moved you back out of Germany into Belgium, they put you in a defensive line. How long did you stay in that defensive line? Was it for days or the entire time? Weeks, a month?
we were in Malmedy, what they call Malmedy, Belgium.
Malmedy.
And we set up a defensive line there. I reckon we went in, I don't remember exactly how many days, but the orders came down that we were going to counterattack.
Okay.
So that's what happened.
Now, when you counterattacked, was your unit near or one of the units that discovered the massacre at Normandy, where the GIs had been executed? You were among those that found that.
Right.
What went through your
We
mind?
were laying in the snow. We stepped body over body. That most of us shot by fall.
What were you thinking when you saw that?
Well, I was thinking I'd kill every German I could spot,
Okay. Now,
regardless of whether, if he was a German, we'd kill him.
and the rest of the platoon probably thought that way too, didn't they? This is before you're wounded, right? Now you're moving across on the counterattack, and this would be end of December 1944 maybe, or in January.
Yeah. I believe it was in December. Yeah, it was December. 'Cause
Okay.
on Christmas Eve day in December, in the Battle of the Bulge, we lost over half of my platoon
How did that happen?
in Air Force raid,
A German Luftwaffe?
bombing and strafing, and they caught us
Caught you out in the open?
in a bad spot, really. And I can't remember, but it was either 38 or 40 men in my platoon killed, not wounded, killed. And so we dug in defensively, and I had to go back to the company CP. And I told the company commander, but he said, tomorrow morning we move out in the attack field. And I said, I've got the thing to attack with. And he said, you'll get replacements tonight. And so I got men in the platoon that night that had been in the army 6 weeks.
They had just come in from Normandy as replacements.
That's right. Had actually been in.
Did your platoon leader survive that attack too that day, so that he was ready to attack with you that next day? So you made the attack. What happened?
Well, like I said, in the attack on Christmas Eve, we lost all these men, and that was the Battle of Bulge. And then, of course, we got new replacement. As I said, some of them had been in the army just 6 weeks. And some of them knew it all to start with. And my job was to inform them what to expect. And I remember telling, I said, if you new men will watch your squad leader or somebody that's been up here a while, I said, you'll live long. I said, if you don't take orders from him, you're not going to be with us. I said, every time you're held up or pinned down, I said, you can lay on the ground, dig your trench to roll in. And I remember very distinctly one guy said, I'm not digging every time I stop. I said, that's up to you. I said, but if you don't, you won't be with us long, friend. I said, now you mark this down, because if you don't dig here in infantry, you're not going to live. He said, well, I ain't digging all the time. I said, fine. We jumped off in the attack. In less than an hour, he was dead. So that shot him right through the head. I was screaming, get down, get down. He never hit the ground until the bullet went through his head.
How were you wounded the second time?
The second time I was hit in the neck and in the shoulder.
Was this shrapnel again, or was this a Machine gun or rifle?
Strap.
Okay.
I can still feel a piece of strap in my neck.
Do you remember where it was?
That was in the battle.
Yeah, but whereabouts were you on the attack now?
Yeah, on the attack.
On the attack with your unit. This would have been about the same time, late December 1944. Where did they evacuate you back to after you were wounded the second time?
I went back in France to a field hospital, which was tents, but and I guess it had these long tents that was, I guess it was 40 or 50 wounded men in the tent, and that's where they.
How long were you there?
I was there. I guess maybe 45 days, I guess.
So into February. Did you go, when you recovered, you weren't wounded badly enough to be shipped home, so you went back into the replacement pool? How did you end up back into M Company?
Well,
Again.
when I left England, they handed me a new rifle, M1 rifle, with the cosmoline still on it, packed in cosmoline. And we call them Blue Star Commandos, that section. And I told him, I said, why haven't you cleaned up this rifle? Here I'm getting on a boat to go across the channel, rifle, it's still cosmolated. He said, what's wrong with you? You can't clean. That was the answer. So, of course, I cleaned it on the boat going across. And when I got to Normandy, France, I was put in a replacement cruiser
Again.
again. I did the same thing. I went AWL from the replacement cruiser to join my own outfit.
Now, by this time, where were they?
They were, we were up in Germany, edge of Germany, part in Belgium and Germany.
Okay. So you had to go from Normandy, being AWOL, and somehow get across into Belgium. How did you do that? By truck again?
Okay.
You hitched a ride on the Red Ball Express?
It was a 10-wheeler truck. As I told the driver, he told me where he was going, and I told him, I said, I'll be in the back of your truck. He said, I don't want to put you back there. So when he got to regimental headquarters, I reported to the colonel and told him, I said, I'm an AWL from the motor.
Again.
And he said, that's fine. I'll take care of it. And so he said, being you want to get back, he said, I'm having a driver to take you up as far as I can, so I can tell you exactly where M Company is. And I'll have him to take you as far as he can go.
Was your lieutenant glad to see you come back?
Hugged me just like a long, long brother.
I bet he did. Now, the Battle of the Bulge is over. Germans are retreating.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, was there still a lot of fighting going on every day? Or was it really more movement?
It was, after the Battle of the Bulge, there was a lot of movement. You gained a lot of ground. I know at one period after that, we moved about 20-some miles in less than 2 days, moving forward.
And this is on foot, walking. Okay. You get into Germany.
Of course, we caught rides on tanks.
I'll bet you did. You were wounded a third time. What happened?
Third time I was wounded. We were up in Germany between the Rhine and the Elbe River.
You had crossed the Rhine, and you were moving up to the Elbe River outside of Berlin. Okay.
And it was, the fighting wasn't quite as heavy as it was, you know. And in some way or another, it was German tank. He was camouflaged, and I told one of my squad leaders, they were laying artillery on this highway. We were laying in the ditch in the water. And I told him, I said, when the artillery left, always we're gonna wait about 3 or 4 minutes for that last shell to come in. The German would stop the barrage. They think he'd move forward, then they'd throw some more right in there. I said, we'll wait them out a while. So we did, and so when I told him, I said, we'll cross the road 2 at a time. And he said, Sergeant, get ready. I said, pass the word down the ditch that we're crossing 2 at a time. And I said, you and myself going first. He said, whatever you're ready to say. Okay. But he and myself started across the road. This German tank fired. And I was told later the shell hit him direct. They never. Boys in the company wrote me a letter in the hospital, said the only thing they ever found was his foot still in the shear. And of course, there I was all bulged up myself. So that was my last bit of combat.
You were shipped back to England to recover from your wounds this time? How long were you in England?
The war ended, I was still in England.
Okay.
In the hospital.
All right.
My outfit was back in the States. I was still in England.
Okay.
And I begged every day when the doctors come around. I said, ship me to the States. And he said, you're not ready to go yet. So finally, after it seemed like forever, they put me on a hospital ship and brought it to the States. And they asked me what was the hospital closest to home that I could go to. And I said, well, Richmond or Fayetteville.
Okay.
So where they sent me was Augusta, Georgia. I stayed down there, I thought forever, really. And there I stayed till I was discharged in Augusta, Georgia. I was discharged from the hospital.
Was your family, when you got to Augusta, did your family know you were coming home?
Yeah,
were they able to meet you there?
No, they never did. Nobody ever met me there. But,
really? Okay. So it wasn't until you got home back to North Carolina that...
That's right. And I saw it in effect.
What was that homecoming like for you?
One of the greatest feelings I'll ever feel in my life. When I was walking up the driveway, I never will forget my sister. She ran and met me crying, and it was just a great homecoming.
Do you remember what your first meal when you got home was?
No, I really don't. I was so excited to get them.
Okay.
I don't know.
Do you remember having your first glass of fresh milk?
Yes, I do that. I drank milk just like an alcoholic drinking alcohol when I was in the hospital.
Have you been able to stay in touch with any of the other members of your unit?
Oh, yes, sir. The platoon leader was Roy Snow. He lived in Brookfield, Florida. And we stayed in close touch, visited each other. But he passed away. And then there was another lieutenant, was Jack Wayman. He lived in New York State. And he himself talked the other day.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
He called me every once in a while or vice versa.
After the war, what did you do? After you recovered from your wounds and you were home, what did you decide to do?
Well, for a while I didn't do anything. And my daddy owned a right good sized farm. And it was a service station there in that little old town. So I operated that service station for a couple of years, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was an oil company that the man that owned the oil company, he gave me a good job at the oil company. And that's where I stayed till I retired.
I'll be darned. What was the name of the oil company?
Northeastern Oil Company.
Okay, that's incredible. Is there anything else you would like to share with us about your time in the service?
There was so much, but I don't. Only thing I remember, my good friend, we went in the army the same day. Name was Craig Sisk. And the first time I ever heard him pray, we were going across the channel on a LCI. And he prayed for his men. He was a sergeant, and I was both of us staff sergeant at that time. And he prayed for his men. I remember the words. He said, "Good Lord, I'm not asking you to save me, but I'm asking you to protect my men."
You are guilty.
And when we got on the beach, I read less than 30 minutes he was dead.
Hmm.
Broke my heart, but
Hmm.
he's a great guy.
Did you have any brothers? Did they serve at the same time? Were they younger than you? Or were you the...
All was older than me.
Really?
None of them was in. I was the only one in the military.
You're kidding.
That's right. 4 brothers, 5 boys, and I was the youngest, and I was on the floor.
Amazing. Well, Jack, I want to thank you not only for your patience today in waiting, but your time in sharing with us. And if it hasn't been said, I want to thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you. Thank you very much.